Issaquah, okay? Everybody knows that. She always says Issaquah, so we teased her about it for a long time. And then, were your parents with you that day?
Yeah.
When you were there?
Yeah.
So now, it's like everywhere I go on the east side, the whole family shows up. It's like, you know, mom, dad, everybody. Sisters who still, after about, what, 4 or 5 years, still will not speak to me. I don't know why. She has like little sisters. They don't say anything to me. They come out, they don't say, hey, how you doing? They're like, what? I didn't do it. But they don't say anything to me. You can sit down there. So she didn't have to sit up here like dying. How much time do we have till the class is over?
40 minutes.
Beautiful. Why don't we start off? Yeah, we'll just just riff off your questions. I see you like have prepared worksheets and everything. Oh no?
No.
Well, we could like go over the worksheet then. That's cool. Do they still give you dittos? I was wondering that the other day. They still do dittos.
When did you decide that you wanted to become a radio talk show host? How old were you?
I never decided on talk show yet. I don't think I'm ready to get.
DJ.
Although, you know, sometimes, because I am pretty opinionated, a talk show, I think, you know, sometimes I think, man, what I wouldn't give for the chance. Because a lot of times, you know, you have to take it, you just kind of have to take it coming in, and you have to remind yourself, let them win. You know, let them win. If they've got a complaint, if they're angry with you for whatever reason, let them win. Sometimes it'd be nice to fight back. Actually, I'll give you the whole story in as much of a nutshell as I can. When I was like 12, my family moved out to Monroe. My mom wanted like the big house and a place for, you know, she wanted to buy me a motorbike. That was like her big deal. She wanted to have some room and all that kind of stuff, so we bought a big old house out in Monroe. And I started going to school out there. I was an only child, spent a lot of time, mom worked, all that kind of stuff, spent a lot of time shooting hoop in the driveway and listening to the radio. And something just kind of snapped. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always putting on shows for the family and stuff, you know, like all the holidays, there was like the Christmas show and the Thanksgiving show and stuff like that, of which I still have tapes of, which is really frightening. My first air check is from when I was like 10 years old. So somewhere along the line, I thought, you know, this would be really cool. And I just had opportunity to meet some people who, like at the time, worked for KRKO in Everett when KRKO was still playing rock and roll music. I met, you know, just different radio people who every single one of them tried to scare me out of it. They were like, oh, you don't want to do this. You don't know, this is terrible, there's no money in it, and you have to work all the time, and you'll never get paid, and all that kind of thing. And I thought, man, and then I started looking at these guys and thinking, that can't be how it is. It must be because these guys just aren't very good. So I got an opportunity one time. I was working out at the Evergreen State Fairgrounds, you know, schlepping burgers, and I got the opportunity to meet some guys from KRKO, and they were having a remote. And I said, I just asked them what it would take to hang out, what I could possibly do to get to hang out at the radio station. And they looked at me, whoa, we can't pay you. Oh, I know. I just want to come and, you know, and just hang out. And they're like, well, come on down. And so it started, I mean, this is, you know, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm making all this up, but I mean, it started out my first day. You know, I walk in and they hand me a bucket and a sponge and said, see that van out there? Sure looks dirty, doesn't it? I was like, yeah. Okay, I'll be over here. You know, and went out. It was a sunny day, you know, it was cool. Took my shirt off. I'm like, you know, washing the van, do the whole thing, you know, just hanging out. You know, then there's like these news cars there, and there was some other stuff there, and I thought, hey, you know, whatever it's going to take. And so I watched all those too. And people came out and they went, you know, they were like, who's this kid? You know, who's this guy washing our car? Did they hire you or something? Did we trade out for this? You know, what's the deal? I was like, no, I just wanted to do it. And so they kept me around to intern. I did everything from taking inventory of all the carts that they had stuffed in this back room that were like 10 years old, this huge number of carts, sitting there writing down what each one of them was. And then they took the list and went, oh, great, and threw it away. A week's worth of work like that. Obviously, that made a big impact, and I'm scarred for life from that. From that to filing papers, taking out the garbage, sweeping the parking lot. The only reason I include all that stuff is because if any of you guys think that you're just going to bust out of this class here and step in and take my job, you're kidding yourselves. If you're not serious about it, and if you don't want it more than anything you ever wanted in your whole life, then forget it, because the money does suck, and you won't get paid right away. You're not going to get the the glamour and adulation. You know what I'm saying? It's a rough business to get started in, but if you stick it out and you have some talent, it's the best gig in the world, no question about it. When I was 17, or actually when I was 16, they decided to have an ownership change. They sold the radio station, decided to change format and fire everybody. So here I am at 16, and I've already been fired. Through that time, I had started out going out in the sticker, they had like a sticker van, nothing like Cube, where they're giving out money and stuff all the time. These guys tied in with Sunkist and gave away like Frisbees and stuff like that. The big prize, I remember the big prize was a 6-piece dinner from Kentucky Fried Chicken and like a TV that they traded out for. They traded advertising for. Did you guys learn all about that yet? Trading, where they trade advertising for stuff, basically. So that's what they did. That was the big prize. I started out doing that. They liked what I did doing the reports. Put me on doing overnights on the weekends, and that kind of stuff. And then I got fired. Everything was going along great, and I get blown out. They hired me back to do American Top 40. I got restless. Started sending out tapes, and talking to different people. I got hired at KNBQ, which was in Tacoma. It's KBSG now. But I was 17 then. I worked there for about 6 months. Got the night gig at Z100 in Portland. They had just put the station on the air like 6 months before, and they wanted basically some young, fired up, guy who they could like mold, just person to go in there and go nuts on the radio. And I was definitely the guy for the gig. Didn't know half of what I thought I knew. I worked there for about 4 years. We had huge ratings, a lot of success, a lot of fun. Came to Cube in '88. Was here for about 1.5 years. Went to Phoenix, and then I came back. I was in Phoenix for about 1.5 years, and I came back almost 2 years ago now. During that time, I was music director in Portland. I was up for Gavin's Music Director of the Year. I was assistant PD in Phoenix. I was assistant PD here in Seattle. And there's some other stuff going down, so who knows what's going to happen next. But that is the story in a nutshell. I'm now 27 years old. I've been doing this since I was 15. And once again, just that there's that one small thing, and I'm going to repeat it one more time, just so you know. If you're in this class just to take a ride and maybe learn a little bit about it, that's cool. If you're serious about it and you want to get into it, that better be it. And make sure you get a full education. Don't think that you're just that you're going to bust into radio and you're going to be a star and make $100,000, because it's not going to happen. You're going to need some marketable skills to fall back on. I would suggest take every single bit of English that you can take, especially composition. Every bit of it that you can get your hands on, because that's all this business is about, is using the English language. It's just using the language and using your vocabulary and being able to speak and communicate to people. And so the more training that you have in that, the better off you are. If there's a way that you can get a hold of anything that involves promotion and marketing, eat it up. Every bit that you can. Take every bit of it, because that's a big part of it as well. The rest of it, that's up to you, but make sure that you get some sort of education. Go to college if you get the chance, especially if somebody else is going to pay for it. Mom and Dad say they'll pay for it. Hey, take a quarter off and then go back in the winter or go back in the spring, but go. Do it. That's the only thing that I think I missed out on. It's the only thing. It's been great. Like I said, I was doing full-time in Portland in the 25th biggest market in the country. I was doing 7 to midnight and, you know, and having fun and loving it. But, you know, the rest of my friends were off at school, like dating, partying, learning, you know, getting an education, but like social skills and things like that, I think I missed out on. You know, I didn't have a life, and they did, you know. Any other questions that we can, like, move off of?
Even though you didn't go to school, most of the people you work with, where did they, like, graduate from, and was it in communications, and did they have a lot of training for this?
This is my own personal thing, and it's not necessarily right. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic. It's not necessarily right, but I'm not a big fan of communications degrees. My personal feeling on it is you can either do this or you cannot. You know, I think there are a lot of things, you know, once again, to get to the next level, to work in Seattle, okay, you've got to have some natural talent. It's got, you know what I mean, it's got to be something that you do, or you just can't, you know, or it just isn't going to happen. You know, they have like basketball camps where they teach people to play better basketball. But if somebody came to you and said, you give me $5,000 and in 6 months, I'll make you a star. You know, I'll make you as good as Michael Jordan. You'd look at him and go, what? You're crazy. I can't play basketball that well. Well, I think this business is the same way, a lot of it. You guys are actually pretty fortunate to have a facility like this. Bob Case, our operations manager and program director, came from here. He does very well and has done very well. Didn't Kent Phillips come out of here too? Didn't Kent come out of here? Who else came from here? You guys probably know better than I do. Nobody else?
Chet.
What did he do?
He's over there.
What does he do?
He's an engineer.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Hey, he's there though. He's there. That's cool. But you've got a great opportunity here, you know, as well. So don't forget that.
Have you been involved with television at all?
Some. We had a show in Portland that we did. It was a public access thing, and these guys called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to host this show?" And I was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll do it." And it actually had like people watching it. It was kind of great. We'd slip things in every week to see if anybody would be watching. We'd like say, okay, on such and such a night, if you hear this song, you know, call me, and we'll send you a T-shirt. We went out and printed up a bunch of T-shirts. And actually, you know, like one night we did that and had like 500 calls. So we said, and now it wasn't like be the ninth caller. We figured nobody was watching this, so we said, anybody who calls gets a T-shirt. And we had like, you know, 500-600 calls. It was pretty cool.
Was it just a radio show that was televised?
No, exactly. You know what? It was a lot like this right here. It was like, you know, it was like 2 cameras like this, and then we just did a thing. It was kind of a local, you know, way scaled down version. But the idea was kind of like an Entertainment Tonight. We just did all the things that were happening in town and all that. I finally left it though, because after about 3 weeks in a row of spending 6 hours to do a half-hour show, I'd had about enough. I mean, you know, it was like, you know, we'd be bombing through the script and everything would be great, and all of a sudden somebody would be, oh, sorry, we've had a technical problem, oh, sorry about that, oh, I forgot to turn the camera on, you know, that kind of thing. It was like, okay, I've had enough of that, gotta go.
Do you have any plans, or like, are there anything that you want to do, like in the future in radio? Like, would you like to have your own radio station?
To get some sleep.
Become a director?
Nice.
Like that?
Yeah, I very definitely want to be a program director. In fact, that's what I'm working towards right now. You know, and there's some other offers coming in too, which is always nice. I think it'd be really hard to leave Seattle again. The year and a half I spent in Phoenix was great. The weather was great. You know, Arizona State's right there. The whole thing, it was a lot of fun, but it was really tough to leave. Seattle's a great place to live, and I think sometimes when you grow up here and everything, you don't appreciate it until you take off. Yeah. You guys got to have questions right there, because you've been so active this whole time, man. You guys got to have something going on. You guys must know everything. Come on, man. What? Dazzle me.
Do you like the music you play?
Love the music. Love the music. Made me a lot of money, man. I just won, recently I just won this thing called the AIR competition, which is, basically it's just PDs, MDs, assistant PDs, and they give you like anywhere between 2 and 5 records a week where you speculate on how well they're going to do, and the more accurate you are, you know, then the more points you get on this thing. I won it and got a 93 bet, you know, so the music's been pretty good to me. But you know what? You can't go into it with a predisposed attitude towards that. You might end up working country, man, in Klamath Falls, Oregon, if that's what you think you're going to do. You know, I mean, if you think that's what you're going to do, if you think you're going to, you know, if you think you're going to get to walk in and pick your format, it's probably not going to happen. I mean, and if you're going to carry that kind of anger around about it, you're going to find PDs that are going to blow you out at a heartbeat just because you're a jerk. You know what I mean? And they'll do that in smaller markets because you know what? They're jerks. You know what I mean? A lot of times they're jerks too. They're unhappy. They don't want to be in Klamath Falls, Oregon. They want to be, you know, they want to be in New York or LA just like everybody else. You might rub them the wrong way and they'll say, see ya. You don't like it? Get out. You know, they'll find 100 more just like you. Once again, I'm not meaning to paint like a really scary picture because it's, once again, it's killer if you're really committed. But you know, don't waste your time otherwise because it would be a waste of time, I think. Just, you know, you don't want to go to, once again, you don't want to go to Klamath Falls to make $400 a month and have to take the side job at Denny's. You know, you don't want to have to. Well, nothing against working at Denny's, but I don't think you want to do it when you're like 23. You know, by that time, I think you probably want to move up.
What's the key?
The one thing you will learn, oh, excuse me, I just forgot one thing. The one thing you will learn, though, you will learn which bars have the best happy hour buffets. That's always really good. That was the one thing, man. I'd done nights for so long, you know, since I was 18, I'd been doing nights, and I went to Phoenix, and I was doing afternoons. And so, wow, there was like a life out there. You know, I've watched Monday Night Football, and I'm a big football fan. You have to understand that. I've watched Monday Night Football, I think like twice since I was 18. You know, I mean, so I'm down there doing afternoons. All of a sudden, there was a life out there, and it was great. You know, we went around and did, you know, like everything. We found out where like every club was, every bar, we found out where all the good happy hour buffets were and all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, what was your question? I didn't mean to interrupt.
I just said, what is the key? Like, what is the one thing that you would recommend anybody who wants to become a radio person to have? Like, motivation or...
Yeah, passion for it. You know what I mean? And I think that motivation is good, but I mean, it's got to be, you know, it's got to stick with you. It's got to be in, you know, if you'll excuse the term, I mean, it's got to be in your gut. And once it is, you won't shake it very quickly. You know, I mean, I know people who've gotten into it, had, you know, maybe for one reason or another didn't stick, tried to get out and do something else, and they're a very good friend of mine who started out at C89, doing a lot of stuff, did a little bit of work in town, in radio, just, you know, he loves it, but it wasn't making enough money for him, so he's an EMT now. But man, every chance, he's like begging me all the time, come and, you know, come give me a board shift, just let me, you know, let me board up for you, anything, I don't care, man.
What's happening in the world of programming out there?
In relation to what?
The kind of music that's being played.
Definitely, crossover has become a big deal. You know, 3-4 years ago, you wouldn't hear half the stuff on the radio that you'd heard. Alternative has made a little bit of a dent, but it hasn't, for whatever reason, it hasn't like totally caught. I guess that's why it's still alternative. You know what I mean? Stations like The End, you know, The End came on, and frankly, I thought they were going to just, I thought they would kick ass. I really did. And they did too, and I think that was part of what hurt them. But it never has really flourished. They had one good book, one good ratings period, and it's just kind of fallen back down. You know, they're in like, you know, 6th or 7th right now. Mainstream radio as we know it, the old days of you know, like when Cube was huge before, when it was KUBE. You know, the old days of where you'd go from here to here are pretty few and far between. Mainstream stations, you know, and I hate to be like, you know, I'm not trying to like take a dig, but you know, mainstream stations like KPLZ are having a tough time. It's really tough. But some of that music's coming back around too. You know, with the Blind Melons. I'm saying with the Blind Melons of the world, the Soul Asylums of the world. You know, other groups like that coming back. They're more prevalent now. It's starting to come back up. Things like that for a while. You know, like when Cube went crossover, and this was something when I came back from Phoenix. They said, you know, will you come back and be music director? And I said, yes, if you will let me be music director. And Bob said, well, Bob and I have known each other for a long time. So he was like, well, you know, we were kind of thinking of making a few changes, and that's kind of why I'd like you to come back. And so, you know, we went through it and decided to take a crossover. For the longest time, like if you checked sales in the market, the top 20 records were all, you know, they were all stuff that we were playing, and nobody else was playing. Now that's a little more integrated, you know, with groups like Blind Melon, Soul Asylum, Four Non Blondes, stuff like that, you know. But it sells, stuff like that.
Have you ever had like any, I don't know if this is what they're called, but FCC agents come and like find you guys for anything?
No, but man, I would be scared to death if they ever did. You know, you always hear the horror stories. Oh, so-and-so, you know, in Mississippi, they went in and the dude hadn't signed his log, and they fired him $600, or they fined him $600 right there, and then when he didn't pay it, they took him to jail. You know, you hear stories like that all the time, but I've never seen it happen. What they do a lot of times, the FCC guys will come into the market, and they'll like go up to the, you know, like a bunch of transmitters are up on Cougar Mountain, and there are transmitters, you know, here and there, and they'll go up there like with their monitoring equipment. I mean, I can only imagine these guys, you know what I mean, with pocket protectors and all that. Well, this is 0.362% gigawatts overload, and you know, oh, they're running illegal but they do that, and they, you know, and they go in and they monitor. I had to tell you, we had an engineer not too long ago that this guy was just. Well, his dad is the general manager of one of our competitors, all right? And I don't want to say that like this had anything to do with it, but he was doing things like Cube is a 100,000 watt radio station. He had the transmitter running at about 27,000 watts, which is, you know, barely over a quarter power, which, believe it or not, is illegal. You would think that they wouldn't care, that they go, oh, well, you're just stupid, you know, that's your penalty. He was just running the transmitter at really low power, doing things like that. They come in and check for those things. The FCC finds those things. They check to see if you've expanded your frequency. You know, you can make, even though we're at 93.3, you can be from 93.30 to 93.39. You know, you can be wide on the band. And you can kind of expand your frequency a little bit, and they come in to check and see if you're like too wide, you know, like if we were butting over into KMPS or anything like that. You know, they come and look for that, those different kind of things. But I've never had anybody come into the station, you know. But I think about it.
Has anybody ever like complained about people, like when you went on stage? I think it was, I don't know what it was, but there was like a party. And people were like cussing, and you had to come on the air saying, "Well, I'm sorry for that." Oh,
it's Summer Jam.
I think that's what
it was. The first Summer Jam down in Tacoma, where we told everybody, "Hey, this is gonna be on the radio, but just chill." And the first group goes up, and the guy goes, "Turn the in bass up." Did I just hear that? Was that what he just said? I think people get it. You know, I mean, I'll tell you, anybody who would complain about something like that, they need something else to do. You know, they need to have more time. And that triggers another question.
Why is country music so popular?
Damn, I don't know. I think what happened. I'm just teasing. I'm really just teasing. I think country music has done a great job of I don't know the other word I'm looking for, but of image. They've just, a mainstream top 40 radio kind of started to take this slide. And you know what? It's all, this is, once again, this is only my belief, but I think it's all in a cycle. It's just all in a big old cycle. 15 years ago, it went just like that. It went disco, which some of the crossover and maybe hardcore dance and house could be likened to that. Then it went into a soft period, where just like where not too long ago we were playing Michael Bolton and Amy Grant. God, I think back to that and just go, what the hell was I doing? And liked it. That was the sad thing. I'm doing my job. I'm having a great time. Hey, here's Michael Bolton. What? I have a gold record thing on my wall at home from Mike, and he signed it. Chet, thanks for helping make this possible. What was I doing? I want to break it. He's a nice guy and everything, but don't blame me for having a part of that. It goes through that. We went through the country thing. They had the urban cowboy, and all that. And I think it's just kind of sliding back around into that now. It's the same thing. There was a rock phase. Top 40 radio was playing Whitesnake and Def Leppard and all those groups that were huge in the late 80s. So now we're just coming back through another cycle. Country, I think it's just country's time. But country also is not, it's not twangy like it used to be. It's a lot of that stuff sounds, or at least it sounds to me like top 40 records. And the way they market these people and the way that they present them. The Country Music Awards just the other night was a big deal. At the Puyallup Fair, Shy and SWV sold maybe 5,000 tickets. It wasn't, it wasn't packed, and those are two of the biggest groups out there now. And Vince Gill shows up, and you can't find a seat.
How does MTV have to do with what's going on the radio?
Nothing. It doesn't affect us. Personally, I could care less what MTV does. The only video, because because they're just like, they make their own decisions just like anybody else does. You know what I mean? And MTV doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in Seattle. They don't have anything to do with what goes on here. There was a time 5 years ago, and maybe even more recent than that, where radio stations, when you picked music, when I was music director in Portland, I remember one of my biggest deals to decide what was going to go on the radio was to look through R&R. You guys familiar with that? I don't know what they've told you and what they haven't told you. R&R, one of the trade magazines, and find out how many radio stations had added a certain song. And if like 20 or 30 people had added a certain song and I thought a few of them were cool, I thought, well, gee, they must know what they're doing. So why don't we do that? Now, if we're not like out there first on something, we don't want to mess with it. But MTV, once again, they're their own separate entity. So the only thing that we pay attention to in the video realm is a service which I still cannot believe they don't have here, is Video Jukebox. And that's a thing where you call them, and I think you actually pay. Like 99 cents or something like that, and they'll play your video. And then Video Jukebox has, they keep tallies of how many people have called them for certain videos. So we watch them, watch what they do. But other than that, MTV, there's nothing on it. Yes.
Who are some of the most famous people that you've met?
Give me some names, I'll tell you whether I have or not.
Shadows.
Shadows of Bud. You want to meet him? Okay.
I watch him on that show all the time.
Yeah? Hollywood Squares?
On the very bottom.
Hollywood Squares?
Yeah.
Right-hand corner.
He does.
Who else? Anybody else?
Sting.
Oh, yeah.
You met Sting?
Yeah.
Where?
So I got the, on his tour in like 89, I got the only backstage interview with him on the whole tour.
You got an interview? Literally an interview? You have coffee?
Somewhere on tape, yeah. What was really bad though is we were having this interview and I'm taking it pretty serious, right? I'm like, and I'm taking it all pretty serious. And then one of our morning guys, had his backstage passes to do the meet and greet and all that. And he comes busting over and asks him something crazy like, you know, if you were going to be any kind of pizza, what kind of pizza would you be? Sting looks at him like he's going to smack him, you know, because he's kind of an angry young man. But, you know, I mean, he's all right and everything. You can just tell, man, he's one of them kind of guys who'd be like, you know, walk away, and you'd just be standing there. You know, oh, sorry.
How about Martin? Martin.
I was on that show.
I saw you.
Did you meet him?
Uh-huh.
How was he? Was he like
You know,
funny?
what you done? Just asking. Dude, man, take it somewhere else, though. I didn't come here to get attitude. You know. Yeah, I did that. No, but I mean, it always cracks me up though, because there's one guy in the class, all right, and I'm just that we talk about that hates everything, man, and I don't know where I don't know what you're so angry at.
I'm not angry.
You know, you're like,
He's always right.
I mean,
He's always right.
well, I know they told me coming in. That's why I'm just making sure that we, you know, get to know each other a little bit. That's the tall guy, right? Just checking.
They warn you about me?
No, warning wasn't like it. I said, okay, who can I mess with?
Okay. Go ahead.
That was all. What else you want to know?
What about, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, she's just playing.
Oh.
She's playing with the
What about,
thing.
Roger, how does he react to his success now since he's like popular again?
Well, it's cool for a guy, Roger.
Yeah, exactly.
Roger had a group Zap that was that they first came out like in the disco days, and he's kind of like he's one of the forefathers of funk, you know, and it's just cool. I mean, it's more money in his pocket, so you know he's happy. I think you know, it's just like doing radio, where you know, I mean, it's performing, and you get the opportunity to do that. I mean, there's nothing better than to have people come up and say, hey, I think what you do is great. I mean, that's you know, the best thing ever. We had this kid who wrote a suicide note and sent it to the station, and I did a thing with it last night on the dedication thing, and it was, I mean, it bugged me. I mean, it bugged me that this dude, you know, was like, I'm gonna kill myself. And so, you know, we spent a little time with it, and you know, this woman called up and she said, "Man, that was, you know, that was really cool what you did with that." And that's a good feeling, you know what I mean? That you can have an impact like that. You know, when people cheer for you, you can't help but like that, you know. And as long as you keep it in perspective, then that's cool. But I mean, you know, when we did the Shy concert down at Puyallup, I mean, the dude said, you know, there's this old guy that they have in a cowboy hat. He's been like doing the fair since 1947. You know, he comes out there, hey, you know, and introduces the skydivers and everything. You're always just like waiting for him to just like keel over, you know, because he's been doing it so long. And he's like so old. And he comes and says, hey, has any of you heard of Chet Buchanan? And people went off, and that was cool. I mean, it was nice. The first thing you think is, huh? You know, what did he say? You know, so I'm sure like for him to come out to Summer Jam and have 20,000 people going off, you know, probably nothing better than that. Well, you want me to close?